Welcome to Shaping eCommerce with IronPlane. This is where we talk about e-commerce development, solutions, digital marketing, and all things e-commerce. Be sure to check out the description below each video to find additional resource links and show notes. We upload new videos each day. Please like and subscribe to our channel. In this episode of our tech series, CEO Robert Giovannini will compare SaaS, on-premise, and PaaS e-commerce solutions.
Hi, thanks for joining us again here at Shaping eCommerce with IronPlane. I'm Robert Giovannini, the CEO and co-founder of IronPlane. Today we're going to continue the series about how to choose a platform. And one of the things you'll probably come across is terms like SaaS, on-prem, traditional IT, or even PaaS, which is in some ways a hybrid between the two extremes of SaaS and on-premise. But what do these things mean, and what do they mean for you in your decision process? So let's start with just some basic definitions. SaaS, or software as a service, is typically all managed by a third party. And we'll get into the pieces we mean here. But at the end of the day, a SaaS provider, like a BigCommerce or Shopify, are going to really handle the heavy lifting of the ongoing support and maintenance of your website. Bracket custom integrations and custom designs you might be doing if you're running them headless, but the core application layer and the networking and the security, all of these pieces would be handled by the third party. With an on-premise solution, and an on-premise solution doesn't necessarily mean it's physically located in your office. This could just be that it's up in a cloud server that you control. The core pieces that you now are responsible for are far greater than if you're on a SaaS solution. So for example, you've got to handle, obviously, the core application itself. You've got to make sure that any security patches and updates are being done in a timely manner. You have to make sure that those security patches and updates don't conflict with anything else running on the core platform or anything you've done custom. You have server architecture, and this can be network maintenance, traffic maintenance, security maintenance, operating system maintenance, ensuring all those pieces are running optimally for the type of platform you've put on it. Now, a lot of people opt to use a third-party hosting service, but even then, you've got to take more responsibility to make sure that that hosting service is architected in a way that is optimal for the platform you've put on it. Now, what else do we have? We have these hybrid approaches in the middle, PaaS, platform as a service. Salesforce.com, Salesforce Commerce, bills itself as this type of solution. I would say that Magento's cloud-based enterprise platform is also a PaaS solution. Within this environment, you're no longer responsible for the servers, the server architecture, traffic monitoring, and security and maintenance of that core architecture, but you are still heavily responsible for the application itself and managing the application, customizing the application, and making it do what you need it to do. So within these three broad categories, what's right for you? Well, again, like a lot of what we've talked about, it comes down to a business decision. What I'm looking at recommending one or the other to a potential client, we're looking at things like scalability. In a SaaS solution, the beauty of them managing the servers is very enticing, but your ability to customize the scalability of that environment is far more limited, not only on the number of, for example, API calls you might be able to do, but just also in terms of overall server architecture. You don't have the ability to customize that architecture to fit the unique needs of your business. Even the most enterprise type solutions within BigCommerce and Shopify pale in comparison to what you're going to get on something like a Magento completely on-premise custom solution. On the flip side, of course, you are looking at something like a Magento, where scalability is fantastic. The ability to customize the architecture to do what you need is fantastic. but there are a lot more moving parts. And so this necessarily brings with it more costs. You need to have a certain amount of IT expertise at your ready. Now, whether that's an in-house IT department or a third-party agency, you need to make sure you've got all of those blocks in place to ensure that your website can run at peak efficiency. Well, the next big pieces we want to think about when we're comparing SaaS versus PaaS versus on-premise is security and compliance. How well does the third-party service handle security, and what are their processes and protocols in case they have a breach? This is, in this case, you get the advantage of a company that is doing a security protocol for a large number of clients, but it may not fit exactly what you need and what your specific security requirements are in your organization. So you've got to compare that. You got to look at that. But more than security, I think you've also got to look and say, what happens if it goes down? What happens if my SaaS solution is brought offline? What recourse do I have to get my site back and get it up and running again quickly? Compare that to an on-premise solution. You can put in place as aggressive a policy for security and backups as you want to. And in fact, we have a video that we just did that addresses these kinds of issues, where you can look and say, well, a nightly backup is plenty for me. Well, or I need an hourly backup, or I want backups that are in multiple regions, or even in a physical server that I can go take and plug in myself if I need to. Right? There's lots of ways you can construct your backup plans if you have an on-premise solution. Another key consideration we need to look at is customization. Out of the box, a SaaS solution is great. You've got a myriad of features and functions, and you're likely not even to use a vast majority of them. But if it doesn't have the feature or function that you need, then you need to come up with, can I plug in a third-party module? Am I able to customize it enough to do what I need to do? Or is it going to be a little bit of a square peg and a round hole? You could probably jam it in, but it may not be the exact right fit, and you're going to spend more time chasing technical issues than just leveraging the feature that you need. And I see this mostly, of course, in custom integrations with large-scale ERP systems, but even in product configuration. If you've got complex products with unique options or need a series of dependent options, for example, if I choose red, I can only have these 3 sub options appear. And if I choose green, then these other options can appear. That kind of conditional logic gets pretty complicated to do in turnkey platforms. And while there's always ways and workarounds, they're not efficient. They can slow a site down. They can make them difficult to display on mobile. This is where the advantage of an on-prem solution usually comes in, because you have far more flexibility in how you customize that platform. I've seen this in not only in how the products are displayed, but the rules. For example, if you're doing live calls to an ERP system and you're building up a price based on cost components, this can get very, very difficult to do in your typical SaaS solutions. And you need the flexibility of the database configuration and the product configuration that a typical on-prem solution will offer you. 2 more considerations. Budget. Generally speaking, your on-premise solution or your PaaS solution is going to have a higher upfront cost. You're going to pay to customize the back-end features, and you're going to pay to customize the front end. And then you've got to go through a lot more testing to ensure that it's running as you expect, and then deploy it to your production environment and maintain it thereafter. Whereas your SaaS solution is likely going to get you in and up and running faster and for less money. But longer term, you really need to look at the ongoing cost and comparison to determine which one is actually going to be better from a budget perspective. Typically, your maintenance and support costs will start to flatten on a custom solution. And in fact, if you're not doing a tremendous amount of customization over time, they can go lower over time. Whereas a SaaS solution, typically the business model is based on the size of the company and how many orders are coming through the system. And there's a lot of different tiers and pricing models and negotiation that can happen there. But as a whole, as your company is growing, so is what you're paying the SaaS company. Not only are you paying a larger share of your revenues every month to the SaaS tool, but still on top of whatever customizations you're doing to the platform with your own private developers. So the cost of ownership tends to shift toward the beneficially toward the on-prem solution over a period of time if your company is growing. The final factor that I want people to consider when they're deciding among these various systems is your ability to move on. I think SaaS tools are fantastic, and I think they're a great solution for a lot of companies. But if you're a high growth company, or if you're starting to do millions and millions and they're growing every year, and this is just a personal preference, I don't like having my core business tied up in a third-party platform that I have very little overall control over the code and what it's doing over time. I want the ability to be more portable. And so it's okay to start there. And while no one ever likes re-platforming, it's usually, if you don't have a lot of customization or a lot of integrations and it's fairly early in your growth process, it's not that difficult to move to another platform. But if you think you're going to outgrow the flexibility of that platform within a 3-year period, you probably need to consider very seriously spending the upfront money to get on an on-prem type solution, or at least a PaaS solution where you have the advantages of the customization and you don't have to focus as much on the infrastructure details. It can be a hard decision. And I would say that even if you have a very large company, but a small set of products without a lot of customization, then migrating is actually probably going to be relatively simple at any time. But if you've got highly custom product configuration going on and high volume of orders coming in with custom integrations, there's no question that moving becomes far more difficult the more you grow and the more that you customize along the way here. So those are that's why we always also encourage people to think about roadmaps, even if they're not going to implement the entire roadmap. If you can sort of think out 2, 3, 4 years, what you think you're going to want the site to be doing, that should help drive some of the decision-making today. Anyway, hopefully this is helpful. We'll include a summary in the show notes below. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
For more insights on how to improve your e-commerce website and for a free consultation, visit IronPlane.com. Follow us on social media and like and subscribe below.